her parliamentary login credentials with a businessman who accessed it from multiple locations abroad. The second accusation against her is that this businessman paid her in cash and in kind for questions that she asked targeting the Adani group. Mahua's defense is that this entire thing is simply a concoction by the powers that be because she was going after the perceived closeness between the Adani group and the powers that be. She also says that neither was she heard fully in the ethics panel meeting, nor was she given a chance to speak in Parliament today. And all the while she maintains that no crime has been proved. So, is Mahua's expulsion from Parliament in line with parliamentary rules, a straight-up case of breach of ethics and parliamentary privileges, or is it a regressive trial?
From a script, this is an ethics committee. The ethics committee, without getting to the root of this, has decided to hang me.
जैसे कि महुआ मोइत्रा को नाम लिए गए, जिक्र किए गए, उनके खिलाफ शिकायतें हैं, तो उनको तो कम से कम बोलने का मौका देना चाहिए नहीं? आप खुद बताइए सर।
2005 में 10 लोगों को निष्कासित किया गया था, उसी दिन रिपोर्ट दिया गया था और उस टाइम भी 10 लोगों को इधर अपने बात रखने का मौका नहीं दिया गया था। ये रिकॉर्ड पे है।
Fair trial only would be there when an affected person is being heard. If an affected person is not heard, there cannot be any fair trial.
This is vendetta politics of BJP.
अनैतिकता दिखी और दायित्वपूर्ण व्यवहार नहीं दिखा और इस वजह से आज उनका लोकसभा से निष्कासन हुआ।
All right, so Mahua Moitra has cried foul. She says, "Apne vastraharan dekhi liya," referring to the episode involving Draupadi in the Mahabharat. She says the ethics panel has punished her without going into the root of the matter. That the ethics panel, one of her contentions is that the ethics panel refused to summon Darshan Hiranandani, basis whose testimony or basis whose statement she was being pilloried by the ethics panel. There is no evidence, she claims, of any cash or gifts changing hands in lieu as a quid pro quo for questions asked in Parliament. There are no rules, according to her, on the sharing of login credentials, and even if that is the basic allegation against her, that is not a crime for which she needs to be expelled from Parliament. She's also gone on to say that this is a kangaroo court, it has exposed the breach of process, and that the ethics panel, she contends, has no power to expel a sitting member of Parliament. She now says that she's going to be harassed for the next 6 months till the next Lok Sabha election. Her contention is that this government under Mr. Modi detests Nari Shakti and that its days are numbered. But here is the case against Mahua Moitra as has been laid out by the Parliament's ethics panel. Number one, that she did admit, and in fact I'll be playing out a chunk of the interview that I did with her back in November, where she did publicly admit that she did give her login credentials to Hiranandani's office, and there were people in Hiranandani's office who were using her login credentials to put up parliamentary questions on her behalf. Number two, that typing facilities from Hiranandani's office, that is seen as a weak excuse by the ethics panel that went into this case. Number three, that Darshan Hiranandani's admission was that he was giving her expensive gifts and he did so for questions that she asked, and his intention behind that was to seek a business advantage. In fact, the whole point of his relationship, his friendship with Mahua Moitra was to seek a business advantage. Number four, the login credentials. It's not bad enough that the login credentials were compromised, somebody other than the MP's staff were using it, but it was operated on 47 occasions from Dubai and multiple other occasions from different locations abroad. Now, the Parliament website is a high security website. It is a high security portal. The fact that it was logged onto on multiple occasions from foreign servers, that the ethics panel has also contended is a national security question. And number 5, that login gave access not just for the staff of Darshan Hiranandani to file or upload questions on Mahua's behalf. What it did give access to them was draft bills, minutes of the meetings of committees that she was part of. She was part of the IT committee and other committees, all of which was not in the public domain. And number 6, the breach of NIC protocols by grant of login to an unvetted individual. Now, the BJP is also taking a direct shot at Mamata Banerjee, who has come out in Mahua's defense. BJP leader Amit Malviya has tweeted, and this is part of our Motorola India's Best 5G Smartphone Brands tweet of the day.
Hello, Moto.
This is what Amit Malviya has tweeted, that Mahua Moitra had become a face of impropriety in Parliament. Her expulsion was imminent to restore the credibility of the institution. But it is Mamata Banerjee's patronage and selective support for the delinquent MP that must be questioned. She had the state CID snooping on her, so she was aware of everything that Mahua Moitra was up to. Did she willfully allow the MP to undermine the institution of Parliament to exercise leverage on corporate houses? What did the poor of Bengal gain? That's the question from Amit Malviya, who of course has taken on Mamata Banerjee in the past and is doing so now as well. That brings us to our big debate: is the opposition's charge of vendetta and this whole trial by media a kangaroo trial? That's the charge from Mahua as well as the India bloc parties, all of whom are solidly backing her. Is that ignoring what the ethics panel claims is an open and shut case, that there is damning evidence of breach of propriety, breach of parliamentary rules, and most importantly, breach of ethics on the part of Mahua Moitra?
Hello, Moto.
All right, so let's get straight to our debate. Aparajita Sarangi is a member of Parliament. She's also a member of the Lok Sabha Ethics Committee, which went into this matter. So we will ask her about the charges that Mahua has made against the Parliamentary Ethics Panel. Dr. Shashi Panja is a cabinet minister in the West Bengal government. Sonal Man Singh is a Rajya Sabha MP and a Padma Vibhushan awardee. Pawan Verma, author and former diplomat, also joining us. Aparajita Sarangi, let me ask you first. You were part of that panel that questioned Mahua Moitra. You also heard Jay Anant, the lawyer who first brought these allegations, and of course Nishikant Dubey, who was in a sense the instrument for these allegations to come public. Mahua Moitra's contention is twofold. Number one, that she was not given a fair hearing at the ethics panel, and two, none of what she has done constitutes a crime, a violation of the Indian Penal Code, and therefore she says the ethics panel has no business punishing her. How would you respond to both of those charges?
Parliamentary Standing Committee on Privileges and Ethics has submitted a very comprehensive report of around 500 pages to Honorable Speaker after due diligence. Now, I must say that this committee sat for 3 days and we heard the complainants, the two complainants, Jay Anand Dehadrai and Honorable MP Nishikant Dubey at length, and thereafter on the third day, on 2nd of November, we had invited Madam Mahua Moitra to come and depose before the committee. She, as we say, was given the opportunity of being heard, and I must say that she did walk in and she did speak for more than 1 hour about her own issues, about her personal life, so to say, and then thereafter there were certain questions which all of us had to ask. So the chairman of the committee started asking questions, and thereafter what happened, I think all of you have covered very well. She started fuming and fretting. She stormed out of the room. She used unparliamentary language for the chairman because she thought questions were asked because Draupadi Draupadi ka Chir Haran was the intention, and all kinds of allegations were leveled by her while talking to us. Now, to say that she was not given the opportunity of being heard was far from the truth. The entire day, 2nd November, had been dedicated to listening to her. She spoke to us for more than 1 hour, and thereafter she started fuming and fretting. She lost her cool and she walked out. So what am I saying is that the allegation that she is leveling against all of us that we have not allowed her to talk, allowed her to speak, allowed her to put forth her viewpoint is not true.
Okay.
And I must say that in 2005, when 11 members of parliament had been expelled from the Lok Sabha, at that point of time also the then speaker Shri Somnath Chatterjee ji had not allowed them to speak in the Lok Sabha. The defendant is never allowed to present the case in the Lok Sabha when the matter is heard by all the members of the Lok Sabha.
The only difference, and this is again Ms. Mahua Moitra's contention, the difference between the 2005 case and this case, according to her, is in the 2005 case, you had video footage of these members of parliament accepting cash from a undercover journalist which was part of the sting. And for that cash, in lieu of that cash, questions were asked. Those questions were told to those MPs. You can hear those questions in the video. You can see them take the cash. And for that cash, in lieu of that, they asked questions in the Lok Sabha. So in that case, there is evidence of money changing hands. Mahua Moitra's contention is, where is the evidence that she got these expensive gifts or the cash allegation of 2 crores was given to her? Where is the evidence that that happened for her to have gotten a quid pro quo for the questions that she asked?
See, there are 2 issues that have to be kept separately. One, unethical conduct as a parliamentarian, non-observance of parliamentary procedures. We have to understand this. And let me tell you, we heard the complainant and the defendant. We went through the affidavit, sworn affidavit by Darshan Hiranandani, and we also looked into the report of the ministries of IT, Home Affairs and other related ministries. She has ensured that 47 times the questions were uploaded from Dubai by the staff of Darshan Hiranandani, right? The Hiranandani is an Indian national, I must say, but he has residentiary rights in Dubai and he stays there with his staff. Now, on one particular day, questions were uploaded in members portal of Mahua Moitra from different locations, different geographies and jurisdictions.
Okay.
From Nepal, from Delhi, from New Jersey, let me tell you, from Bengaluru. So I think, how does it happen? And won't you explain this? Won't you term this as unethical conduct? Her behavior was unbecoming of a parliamentarian.
Okay.
And therefore, she has been expelled from the Lok Sabha because she went against the procedures.
So let me ask Dr. Panja of the TMC.
Conduct standards.
Yeah. Dr. Panja, you know, the problem is that Mahua Moitra, the TMC, the India bloc, which is now supporting Mahua, is missing the basic contention here. It's not so much the fact that she shared. All right, we'll go across to Shashi Panja in just 1 second. I believe the audio has been lost. If the audio does come back, please do inform me and then I'll go straight across to her because she's the member of the TMC who's of course going to be defending Mahua. But let me ask Pawan Verma this. The charge, the graver charge against Mahua Moitra is not the fact that she shared her login credentials, but who she shared it with. By his own admission in the statement that he recorded, which was then countersigned by the High Commission there, he has said, Mr. Hiranandani, that, all right, Dr. Panja is back. Dr. Panja, the graver charge against Mahua Moitra is who she shared her login credentials with. Darshan Hiranandani says in his statement that he had a business rivalry with the Adani Group and that he was privy to information which is parliamentary privilege. You know, minutes of meetings that she attended of various parliamentary standing committees. He had access to draft copies of bills that were being discussed in the corridors of parliament. All of these are confidential information given to a person who has a vested interest, who is a corporate rival of that very same corporate group that Mahua Moitra had been railing and ranting against. So that is the contention. It's not so much, oh, her parliamentary credentials were violated. That's fair enough. But violated by who? Who did she give it to? That is the more important part.
Good evening, Jacobs. Though I missed a bit of the answer of Aparajita ji, but nevertheless, I begin from where you asked. And that is, this is that very ethics committee which never sat and sat ever since July 2021. This committee never sat. Nevertheless, this is precisely the reason as to why she should have been heard. if you have these questions, and the right person to answer these questions would have been the member herself, Mahua Moitra, and that is why our leader in Lok Sabha requested the Honorable Speaker to give her a chance to speak on these allegations. You see, what happened in the Ethics Committee, much as Aparajita Di may say that she was heard, the allegation on behalf of the member Mahua Moitra is that she was not heard. It was already preconceived, it was already biased, the questions were malicious, the questions were disparaging, they were humiliations, and this was not related to the two allegations that cash for question, cash for query, and the login, portal logging. So if that justice was given, and if she could have given her, deposed in the committee in a comfortable way on these two allegations specifically, then I think the committee would have had a full report. Secondly, what she asked was, and Jacobs, you have been referring.
Sure. No. What is her defense to those two
Mr.
charges?
Jacobs, you have been referring.
She herself has admitted login credentials were violated. And again, I keep coming back to this,
yes,
not violated by any Tom, Dick or Harry, violated by an interested party.
Mr. Jacobs, that is why it is important that she wanted to cross-examine Mr. Heed Nandani.
Okay.
And if you can allow Mr. Jay to come to that committee and depose along with the member, the complainant, Mr. Nishikant Dubey, why was Mr. Heed Nandani also not called to that committee to depose? Because she also wanted to cross-examine on those very grounds. Because she has mentioned that she has shared those login ID definitely for secretarial assistance. Is somehow, do not underestimate the intellect and capabilities of the honorable member. I mean, she has questions which she framed for herself. She doesn't require anybody to frame those questions. I mean, national security, where are we heading to? National security didn't come in when the Pegasus was used to snoop on people, judiciary, political representatives. Then we didn't talk about it. Pegasus is still pending. And see just how Ethics Committee does not know what its jurisdiction is. Has it overstepped the mandate? You are saying that this should go to an investigator.
The other problem for Mahua is one of optics, one of politics really. Because for the better part of the last at least a couple of years now, she has been railing and ranting against a particular corporate group. And her allegation is that that group got, favors which they were not meant to get only because of the perceived closeness of that group with the powers that be. Now, that very same accusation can be held out against her, that she too got favors, as has been alleged by Mr. Darshan Hiranandani, of expensive gifts and cash because of her perceived closeness to this corporate group. So, this whole moral high ground, grandstanding that was going on for the better part of the last year and a half, that falls through because, it's like the pot calling the kettle black.
Thank you, Zaka. Let me say that what I am going to say is because I hold no brief for Mahua Moitra, or I do not suo motu condemn ab initio the Ethics Committee. But there are some aspects of the matter, the procedure and the conclusion, which I think need us all as a nation to deliberate upon. First of all, who is the original complainant in the matter? It's not a neutral person. It's not a person without mens rea. It is a person with whom she was in a personal relationship, and when that relationship soured, this person brought the complaint to a BJP MP who brought it to the notice of the Ethics Committee. Now, the Ethics Committee, in my view, gave her a chance to speak. Perhaps she should not have walked out, but I am not aware of the kind of questions that were being asked except to hear her version of them being intrusively personal. But she did ask that as part of her defense, she should be asked to cross-examine the original complainant, which was her ex-partner Jay, and Darshan Hiranandani. The question that comes before the minds of people is that while Jay was called to depose, where is Mr. Hiranandani? If there was a case of corruption where he was paying money for questions to be asked, he is equally guilty in that corruption. What action has been taken against him? Why was he not called to the committee to elaborate upon his affidavit? And why was she not allowed to cross-examine?
So one.
Secondly,
just one clarification there, Pawanji. One clarification
let me
there.
finish. Yes,
This
yes.
gentleman, Mr. Hiranandani, is not a public official. He's not holding public office. Now, yes, bribe giving and bribe taking, if that is the alleged case here, both are crimes. But the punishment to a person who is in public office, who is involved in a bribery scandal, is of a far different nature, a far different degree than a private individual. So I think that distinction needs to be made clear.
True. I don't disagree with you, but if you have called Mr. Jay Dehadrai to depose,
Yes.
why could not the ethics committee call Mr. Hiranandani?
Fair point.
And why
Okay.
could they not allow in their presence to the other point that I really feel is that, you see, here a case is cash for query or gift sufficiently expensive to motivate a member to ask a question. That allegation has not yet been proved. It could be proved by a further CBI inquiry, but it has not been proved. So my point is that I sometimes feel that there was an element of summary justice. I am not saying that she is not necessarily guilty, but there was a case of summary justice.
Okay.
You get a complaint, next day you convene a committee, you call her once, if she walks out, you don't give her another chance, you do not give her the main accusations of the report for rebuttal, you do not allow her to cross-examine those she has asked to cross-examine, and then I think it was fair in these circumstances as different from 2005 that she be allowed to speak in Parliament before she is expelled, because the party with a whip has an absolute majority to do so. So I am just saying that in all fairness, while I do not exonerate her, these are questions that we all need to ask, because they set precedents.
So let me ask Sonal Mansingh.
They set precedents.
Two of those questions. One, that even in a legal trial, and this is the law of the land, that every accused person should be given a fair defense, the opportunity to present his or her case, right, before a judgment is arrived at. In Mahua's case, her contention is she was not given a fair defense. That's number one. And number two, I'm not even getting into, who the original complainant is, whether the original complainant had mens rea, had his relationship with her had soured, and therefore he was an interested party, he brought the case, it was a motivated case. I'm not even getting into that. But the person on whose statement this case rests, Mr. Hiranandani, who's the one who's corroborating these allegations, saying, yes, I gave her these expensive gifts, and yes, I gave her cash, shouldn't that person be called as a witness and cross-examined? I mean, that's what we do in all criminal trials, or even civil trials for that matter in this country. Why was that not done before this verdict was pronounced on her that she's guilty of breach of propriety and breach of ethics, and the judgment was arrived at to expel her from Parliament?
For me, the question is simply, because I'm not a legal expert at all, but I feel that the report which was written with so many well-informed, intelligent members of Parliament of the Ethics Committee and I'm sure was vetted again by whoever, but definitely by this Honorable Speaker also, because when the report is tabled and passed in the Parliament, then it's not only one person or only the Ethics Committee members, but other members, maybe Prime Minister and the Home Minister. I'm sure it goes through, passes through hands. And finally, the Honorable Speaker takes cognizance. So, for me, the only issue is, one of the issues, but the main issue is that are we doubting the fairness of this report? Are we doubting the justice or the concept of doing something unjust to your colleague in the Parliament, in the Lok Sabha? Are they so vicious, or are they so unforgiving, or are they so judgmental? I don't know what the word to be used, but I'm sure that in their collective wisdom, what they did, and they presented the report, and Honorable Speaker and others must have seen it, and only after that the step has been taken. Again, I say I'm not a legal expert at all.
Yeah.
To me, as a simple thinking citizen, I also have, kind of a feeling that maybe certain lines, certain boundaries were crossed, which should not have been crossed by an intelligent person, especially a member of Parliament. And the procedures are well laid out anyway. I'm an artist, but when I stepped into the August presence of Rajya Sabha, I had to go through the laws and the rules and the norms, so that one does not do something unjustifiable, unqualified, something that you should not do, avoidable,
Yeah.
But, and then, as you said, 45 times the same things, on the same topic, the questions were logged. It was sort of, just sort of the googlies were thrown. How is that possible? Unless there is a game plan or is something like what has come out. So, for me it is, I do not pass any judgment. None of us are, their authority to pass any judgment. But since you asked me the question, to me it seems like we are questioning the collective wisdom of all the people who have taken cognizance and then arrived at this decision.
So Aparajita Sarangi, the point that even Pawan Verma asked and Shashi Panja asked, and Mahua keeps stressing on this, is the person on whose statement this case rests, Mr. Hiranandani, because he is corroborating the initial allegations. Why was he not called for questioning by the ethics panel? As a member of the panel, could you explain to our viewers?
Absolutely. See, let us remember that an affidavit had been filed by Hiranandani, and that was a sworn affidavit. You go through section 164 of the Indian Penal Code. The sworn affidavit was there, the content was there, and then let me tell you that the affidavit had been shown before the Deputy Consulate General in Dubai. Now, whatever was written in the affidavit was gone through by us, and if Hiranandani would have been called, it would have been sheer wastage of time, because he would have just repeated what he had written in the affidavit. I underscore the word sworn. So I think after getting that affidavit, I don't think there was any need to go for any kind of cross-examination. This is one part. Now there are two recommendations of the committee which we have made to the Lok Sabha, and the Lok Sabha today accepted both the recommendations. One, of course, was the expulsion of Mahua Moitra because of her unethical conduct. The very fact that 47 times questions were uploaded from Dubai is good enough reason to ensure that she goes out of the door of Lok Sabha. I can tell you for sure, this is absolutely unparliamentary conduct, unbecoming of a parliamentarian. And number one. And number two, of course, is the cash transaction, gift taking, Right, that is another part to it which has been written in detail point-wise in the affidavit. I'm sure many of you must have gone through the affidavit. However, the cash trail part, the money trail part, as to how did the money go into the hands of Mahua Moitra, how did it come, and what was the transaction modality, etc., would be ascertained by an investigative agency to be decided by the Government of India. This is our recommendation, that the Government of India should actually appoint an investigating agency to look into the cash trail. But there is no denying the fact that there has been the exchange of cash, there has been taking of gifts, there has been taking of cash, because there is a sworn affidavit, and this has been shown before a very senior Indian Foreign Service officer.
On both the points, one, Mahua herself has accepted that her parliamentary credentials were violated. That's breach of ethics and parliamentary procedure and privileges. And second, on the cash trail or the kind trail, they have gone by a sworn affidavit by Mr. Hiranandani, and they are saying that they've recommended a criminal investigation. I believe the CBI has filed a preliminary inquiry, which may be converted into an FIR in the next few days. So the charges against Mahua are very, very clear. The Ethics Committee is very clear about it.
So, Mr. Jacobs, this is also very clear by the answer. There's impropriety in the way the member of the Ethics Committee, Aparajita, just mentioned whatever the allegations were. First of all speculative. There is no evidence of any money trail, no evidence of cash transfers yet. And this is the Ethics Committee which has overstepped its mandate. You have said it in your statement that you are not an investigative agency, but you have recommended a punishment which you can't do. So you are evading as to why you have not called Hiranandani. So there are two affidavits.
No, she just said that there's no reason to call him because it was a sworn affidavit.
No, Mr. Allow me to accompany. No, she is not the person to judge whether he should come or not. There are two affidavits. Both the affidavits and the person should come in person. If one comes, the other should also come. That is why, that is where the justice comes in. It is all speculation. Where is the evidence of the cash? Where is the evidence of the gifts? She has mentioned this is, that Darshan is her friend. And how do you just label it like this?
Her contention is, the ethics panel's contention is, Mr. Hiranandani has outlined on which date he is given which gift and outlined the cash transactions given to Mahua, which was given in a sworn affidavit. Now, if he is found to be lying,
that is what the
if he is found to be lying, then he is guilty of perjury.
No. That is what the defendant want to examine the cross-examine the complaint. I mean the affidavit. But why was she not given that fair chance? There are lots of loopholes in the ethics committee. The way they conduct the proceedings. Otherwise, why would you have the draft in the public domain before it was tabled in the ethics committee to be accepted? How come the findings came out in the public domain before the ethics committee even adopted it? And then it comes to the Honorable Speaker. Everybody knew what was coming in the report.
Let me ask Pawan Verma, because he's been a diplomat for many years. This defense that this gentleman, because he resides in Dubai, gave a sworn affidavit in the presence, I believe, of the Consul General of India, and that was signed off by IFS officers, senior IFS officers, senior diplomats of the Government of India working there. Does that defense cut eyes? So therefore, there was no reason for the panel to call Mr. Hiranandani and put him on the hot seat again.
I'm afraid it's not a convincing answer. A sworn affidavit given, and I don't want to go into the circumstances that are part of Whispers in the Corridor, how it was given and in what time and so on and so forth. Let's take it on face value. He gave an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, in which he made certain allegations for which he provided no direct proof except for some trivial gifts which any friend could bring for anybody. In this case, you established or tried to establish a nexus between a gift and a question. All right. He's given a sworn affidavit. When he is given a sworn affidavit and you are planning to examine the propriety and integrity of a member of parliament, surely that person needs to further explain. If you say cash has been given, can you provide any evidence for it? This is elementary jurisprudence, that a person is presumed to be innocent unless proved guilty beyond doubt. I don't think, in my humble view, that the Ethics Committee gave a chance for that, and it was selective in terms of its investigation.
Okay.
You call one complainant, you take the other sworn affidavit as absolute gospel truth. That
Okay.
it may be truth, but it deserves to be interrogated. And when the accused is asking for it to be interrogated,
Okay.
why should the Ethics Committee turn it down?
All right. Well, let's see how this story plays out. For now, two things. One, Mahua, of course, cannot come back to Parliament from Monday because she's been expelled from the Lok Sabha. A, she can legally challenge it, that the option of going to court is always there. And B, unless a court of law in this criminal investigation by the CBI, which I believe, like I said, a PE has been filed, which could get converted into an FIR at a later stage, unless the CBI investigation leads to a trial and that trial leads to a conviction, she is always within her options of, if her party were to give her a ticket once again in 2024 to contest from her constituency of Krishna Nagar, she can always come back not to the 17th Lok Sabha but to the 18th Lok Sabha, if so the people of her constituency will. All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much to all our guests. I want to play out an excerpt of an interview that I did with Mahua. This was back in October when this entire controversy erupted. I asked her directly about these charges. She did admit that yes, her parliamentary credentials were compromised and that she had given this to Darshan Hiranandani's staff because she claimed she came from a constituency where there wasn't, dependable internet at most times, and therefore she needed secretarial staff or she needed some kind of stenographic help. That's why she shared her credentials. But she also maintained that on the charge of quid pro quo, no money had changed hands, and even though Darshan did give her a few expensive gifts, her contention was that that was what friends do for each other and that was not for any kind of quid pro quo for questions that she asked about the Adani Group in Parliament. This is an excerpt from the interview that I did with Mahua a few weeks ago. The allegation from Mr. Jay Anant in his complaint to the CBI is that you received cash to the tune of 2.745 crore rupees at different points of time for different reasons for these questions that you asked as a member of Parliament. How do you respond to these specific allegations?
Zaka, thanks for having me on the show. The most important thing to start, the starting point, why are we sitting here today? We're sitting here today because somebody I had an acrimonious personal relationship with chose to make a complaint, a fake complaint, and take it to Mr. Nishikant Dubey, one out of 543 MPs whose public fallout with me and feud with me over the past 3 years over his fake degree is well known, chose to take it to him. Together they leaked it to the press, and then there has been an affidavit which has been given suo moto by a friend of mine, which is apparently corroborating this. So like you said, what is the seriousness of the query against me? The first question is, it's cash. Cash is very serious. What does he say? That I have taken 2 crores and some 75 lakhs for 2 crores and 75 lakhs. The first important thing is this, that the complainant says I have taken 2.75 crores. Where is the evidence? Anybody can say anything. Any ex-wife, any ex-partner, any ex-daughter-in-law, anybody you know, Zaka, tomorrow your ex-wife can come and say Zaka has taken 5 crores for putting Mahua Moitra on the show and attacking Narendra Modi. There has to be this much to back it up. There is nothing in the affidavit and no documentary evidence to prove ever that 1 rupee of cash has changed hands. Number one, the complainant was called by the Ethics Committee. He has deposed before the Ethics Committee. He was asked 14 times to provide proof of cash. He could provide nothing. 2.75 crores is not a small amount of money. If he was aware of such a large amount of money that I had allegedly received, where are the details? Where is the proof? It's just shooting
Mahua,
in the air.
In the affidavit that Mr. Hiranandani has also filed, he says that he has been extending you favors.
In 1 second, while we're talking on cash, 1 second, Zaka, let's talk on the cash part. Let's not dump everything else. Let's not fall into Nishikant's trap. Let's not dump everything else. So we're talking about cash, we're talking about kind. We're on the cash part. So the complainant talks about 2.75 crores in cash. When we come to this affidavit of Darshan Hiranandani's, does it mention the word cash? Does it mention the word cash?
It does say.
So the most serious charge of all. 1 second, hold on. We have to do it.
Just give me 1 second. Let me read from the affidavit. It says, and I quote from paragraph 12, the demands that were made of me and favors that were asked included gifting her expensive luxury items, providing support and renovation of her officially allotted bungalow, travel expenses, holidays, etc., apart from providing secretarial and logistical help. So it seems like a lot of money, a lot of expensive gifts were given to you by your friend Mr. Hiranandani.
1 second. Zaka, 1 second. We are talking on the cash part. Wait, this is a hit job. Let's talk about the cash. The most serious is cash. The most serious is cash. This is a fake complaint put in where the complainant has said, I've taken 2.75 crores in cash. Is this a small amount? There is not an iota of proof. I just read somewhere that in 2014, one of the complainants who forwarded the letter, his own wife was apparently accused of blackmailing somebody for 2 crores. Is there an iota of proof? Where is the proof in this?
No, but what about what has been said in the complaint?
Use the word cash. 1 second, we'll do it one by one.
Okay.
Let's do this one by one. Let's demolish this one by one, Zaka. Let's talk of cash. He's talking of cash. That's the most serious. He's talking of cash. This complainant is a history of an acrimonious relationship with me in the past. He comes out, he gives it to Nishikant Dubey. They can't prove squat. There is no cash anywhere that he has been able to prove. He has come and deposed in front of the committee. He hasn't been able to prove it. When you come to Darshan Hiranandani's affidavit, which is supposed to be the only corroborative evidence, I'm not supposed to sit here and disprove it. The two of them have to prove it.
No, but Mr. Hiranandani is also saying that there were luxury items, expensive luxury items.
Let's get to the second part.
The complainant, Mr. Jayanand, saying there were Hermes scarves, there were iPhones, there were Ferragamo shoes that Mr. Hiranandani gave you. Did he or did he not?
Okay, 1 second. Now 1 second. 1 second. Again, so the cash is out the window. Let's demolish this one by one, Zaka, please. That's very, very important. Very important. This is not a kangaroo court. The ethics committee might be one, but this media trial that I've been subjected to, it is your duty to listen to my side of it.
Sure.
So the complainant then says, you've got 1, 2, 3. Let's start with. He says, I've got emerald necklaces, 35 pairs of shoes, expensive wines, blah, blah, blah. If Darshan Hiranandani is the approver, so-called approver, where is the itemized list of things that he's given me? That's what I'm calling for. When he says luxury items, Darshan Hiranandani is my friend. Let's go through it one by one. Luxury items he has given me. The only thing he's ever given me 3 or 4 years ago on my birthday was one Hermes scarf. The other thing he's bought for me when he comes from Dubai is some Bobbi Brown makeup. Those are the only 2 things that he's ever given me in kind. The third thing we come to is travel expenses. In terms of travel expenses, my domestic tickets are paid for by my quota. I don't travel anywhere else anyway. And when he talks of travel expenses, the only thing he's ever given me is when I go to Bombay is a car and driver. Right? I've said that before and I'm saying that now. The third thing we're talking about is the renovation of the house. This house that I'm sitting in, which I spoke about yesterday as well, is my official allotted bungalow, 9B Telegraph Lane. The only people who have worked on the renovation of this bungalow is the Central Public Works Department, CPWD. Darshan Hiranandani owns a real estate business. When I got this house in 2020, I asked him to ask his architects to give me a drawing as to how I could open it up a little bit more and let in more light and change the doors and windows in keeping with Vastu. Can you please put in a drawing? Darshan gave me a drawing. I have taken that drawing and given it to CPWD. CPWD did the house. The only 4 things Darshan has ever given me is makeup, one Hermes scarf for my birthday, a car and driver when I've gone to Bombay, and an architectural drawing which the CPWD has done.
But how do you explain, ma'am, the same person that you said, by your own admission, gave you one Hermes scarf and then car and driver whenever you go to Bombay, etc., etc. That same person had access to your parliamentary login credentials and was logging in questions on your behalf.
1 second.
Isn't that a breach of trust?
What access do I have with my... 1 second, please, let's go through. Darshan Hiranandani was my friend. Darshan Hiranandani I have known from before I was an MP. I have put in 62 questions. Please understand this question of this parliament login. Everyone's acting when they find that there's nothing on the cash, they are going in on the parliament login like it's some big national nuclear code that every MP is given. Please understand this very clearly. Every MP is given two password and login. One is the mahua.moitra@sansad.nic.in that every government employee in India gets, and a password for that. I have not given that. The second login that you get is the login for the Lok Sabha portal. All that one can do with that login is to put in your questions and file your travel expenses. Out of 543 MPs, not a single MP puts in their own questions. The training for putting and using the portal is given to your PAs, to your interns and to your PRS lamps. Who are PRS lamps? PRS is a private agency which provides interns for parliamentary assistance for MPs. Every single PRS lamp comes for 3 months or 4 months, puts in questions, has access to this portal. Every single MP, not one. I am one of the few MPs that even wrote their own questions.
Okay.
Darshan was my friend. I have a remote constituency. I told him in 2019, can you have someone in your office wherever my questions come in, that I send it across, the guy types it in. The most important thing to remember is unsupervised accessed and supervised accessed. You are trying to create the impression that Darshan was putting in questions on his own.
You are not denying the fact that Mr. Hiranandani had access to your parliamentary login portal to file questions on your behalf. You are not denying that.
There is an OT. He did not put in questions on my behalf. Somebody in his office I used as a typist to put in my questions. They were my questions. My telephone number is given as the OTP. My telephone number. When the person typed it in, before you submit it, he would call me and said, has the OTP come to your phone? My phone number is given. Out of 543 MPs, probably 540 MPs do not even have their own mobile number. NIC, you can till today, you can put in a question where you can write it by hand and give it in, or you can give it in on the NIC login. If I were to just write it today and give it in, nobody would be any the wiser.
But
there are no rules in
you
NIC
don't reckon
login
that
as
it
to
is
who
a
you can
breach
give
of
your
parliamentary
portal to.
privilege, a breach of faith of your electors,
Not at all.
that a
There are
corporate
not
leader
at
had
all.
access to your parliamentary login? That's not a breach of faith, a breach of parliamentary
not
privilege.
at all. I have used a secretary in my friend's office to type in my questions which I have given to use, and the OTP has come to my phone. Nobody can put in even one question without my permission because the OTP has come to my phone. If it is a breach of parliamentary privilege, then 543 MPs are in breach of parliamentary privilege because nobody puts in their own questions, and there are no rules of NIC.
So, Mahua, you say that the complainant, Mr. Jay Anand, has an axe to grind with you. You were in a personal relationship. You had an acrimonious fallout.
Yes.
Fair enough. But by your own admission, Mr. Darshan Hiranandani is a friend of yours. Why has he corroborated the complainant's version of events?
Why? Mr. Darshan Hiran, what has he corroborated? Mr. Darshan Hiran, this is a hit job. Please understand this. Does anyone in their right mind put up their hand? This is some lunatic who's put in a complaint against anyone. Why would any businessman put up his hand and said, I want to give a suo motu affidavit? Have you ever heard of this? This is a BJP hit job. Get somebody who's in an acrimonious personal relationship with me to go to Nishikant Dubey, who's the only person who they can find to do all this kind of dirty work for them. So get him to get in there, leak it to the press and run a media trial. Then go to Darshan Hiranandani, who is in business, put a gun to his head and listen, you need to help us frame Mahua Moitra. If you don't do this, we will shut down your businesses.
Darshan Hiranandani, you can argue on the details, the list is not mentioned, so on and so forth, but he is corroborating the expensive luxury items, favors that were asked, the renovation of your, support on the renovation of your bungalow, travel expenses, etc. What is his vested interest in putting out this statement against you, as you said, he's a friend of yours.
So that's exactly what I'm asking. What is the quid pro quo? What is the quid pro quo in this? What is the quid pro quo? Why would I am fighting Adani? I am standing up and asking Adani. No one needs to pay me to ask questions on Adani. What is the problem here? That I have taken cash for questions and Darshan has attacked Adani. I would pay darshan to attack Adani, not the other way around.
That he
Adani is running the
represents a
biggest pawn
corporate
job,
house
so it
whose
doesn't make any
interests
sense.
clash with that of the group that you just mentioned. It's
One
rival
second,
corporate interests.
Excuse me. As a parliamentarian, you need to prove quid pro quo. There is no cash. I'm allowed to talk to Darshan, to GVK Reddy, to Ambani, to everybody who is competing with Adani to find out information about the unfair practices that Adani is running.
Hello, Moto.
Presented by
और प्रस्ताव जो माननीय संसदीय कार्य मंत्री ने रखा है वो हम सबके लिए पीड़ादायक भी है, लेकिन कई बार ऐसे अवसर आते हैं जब इस सभा को अपने प्रति तो राष्ट्र के प्रति अपने कर्तव्यों के निर्वहन के लिए उचित निर्णय लेने होते हैं। माननीय सदस्यगण, संसदीय लोकतंत्र नियमों उच्च मर्यादाओं से चलता है। ये सदन हमारे देश की सर्वोच्च पीठ है। पिछले 75 वर्षों की हमारी लोकतांत्रिक यात्रा में हमारे सदन की, हमारे लोकतंत्र की एक ऊंची मर्यादा स्थापित हुई है। पूरा देश उच्च संसदीय परंपराओं के लिए हमारी ओर देखता है। इन्हीं उच्च परंपराओं की बदौलत हमारे लोकतंत्र की पूरे विश्व में एक विशिष्ट पहचान है। माननीय सदस्यगण, पिछले 75 वर्षों की गौरवशाली यात्रा में हमारा लोकतंत्र निरंतर सशक्त और परिपक्व हुआ है। जनता के बीच हमारी विशिष्टता लगातार बढ़ी है। जनता ने हमें इसलिए चुनकर भेजा है कि हम सदन में बैठकर उनके विकास के लिए, उनकी कल्याण के लिए, उनकी आशाओं के लिए, उनकी आकांक्षाओं को इस सदन में बैठकर पूरा कर सकें। लेकिन हमारे लोकतंत्र की इस गौरवशाली यात्रा में समय समय पर हमारे ऐसे अवसर भी आए हैं जब हमने इस सदन की गरिमा और प्रतिष्ठा, सदन के उच्च मापदंडों को बनाए रखने के लिए उचित निर्णय भी किए हैं। इस सदन के उच्च मर्यादा और लोकतांत्रिक मूल्य ऐसे मूल सिद्धांत है जिसमें किसी प्रकार का कोई समझौता नहीं किया जा सकता। ऐसे में हमारा दायित्व बनता है कि हम शुद्ध अंतःकरण से, ईमानदारी और कर्तव्यनिष्ठा से इन सिद्धांतों की रक्षा के लिए अपने दायित्वों का निर्वहन करें। हम अपने उच्च आचरण में शुद्धता रखें, शुचिता रखें, अपने व्यवहार को से किसी प्रकार का कोई को कष्ट न हो, हमारे व्यवहार से हमारे कार्य में कोई संदेह न हो, हमारा आचरण ऐसा न हो जिससे कि लोकतंत्र की उच्च मर्यादा और प्रतिष्ठा को कोई ठेस पहुँचे। इस सदन की विशिष्टता और उच्च मापदंड को बनाए रखने, उन्हें समर्थित करना इस सदन के सदस्य रूप में हम सबका सामूहिक और सर्वोच्च दायित्व है। माननीय सदस्यगण, मैं समझता हूँ हम सब यहाँ पर जिस बात पर विचार करने जा रहे हैं वह हम सब के सामूहिकता से विचार कर रहे हैं, सहानुभूतिपूर्वक विचार कर रहे हैं, संवेदना के साथ विचार कर रहे हैं। हमें किसी भी सदन में किसी भी सदस्य को, मेरी कोशिश रहती है न मैं सदन से उसको निलंबित करूं, कभी कोई कार्रवाई करूं। मेरी तो यही कोशिश रहती है कि सभी सदस्यों को पर्याप्त अवसर, पर्याप्त समय मिले। समय समय पर मैंने कोशिश भी की कि सदन की मर्यादा बनी रहे और उस मर्यादा बनाने के लिए कुछ कठोर निर्णय भी करने पड़े तो सदन की मर्यादा के लिए करने पड़े। और इसीलिए आज भी हम जो भी चर्चा कर रहे हैं उसमें मर्यादा, सदन की गरिमा हम सब के लिए सबसे ऊपर है। ऐसी परिस्थिति में हम सबको
इस सदन के गौरव, सम्मान, नैतिकता और अस्मिता को अक्षुण्ण रखना हम सबकी सामूहिक जिम्मेदारी है। मुझे आशा है इस विषय पर जब हम चर्चा करें तो सदन की मर्यादा, उच्च कोटि की मर्यादा और पूरे देश में इस सदन के प्रति लोगों का विश्वास, भरोसा बना रहे और व्यक्तिगत रूप से भी जिन लोगों ने हमें चुनकर भेजा है, हम व्यक्तिगत आचरण में भी हमारा व्यवहार ऐसा होना चाहिए कि हम लोकतंत्र की उच्च मर्यादा को कायम रख सकें। मैं नियम 316(e)(2) के विषय पर अधिकतम आधे घंटे की चर्चा की अनुमति देता हूं।
Investigation of the unethical conduct of Shri Mahua Moitra MP laid on the table of the House on 8th December 2023.
एक मिनट सबको। ओके।
We don't have the copy of the motion. We don't have the supplementary list of business.
माननीय सदस्यगण, आज जिस विषय पर विचार किया जा रहा है वो विचार और प्रस्ताव जो माननीय संसदीय कार्य मंत्री ने रखा है वो हम सबके लिए पीड़ादायक भी है, लेकिन कई बार ऐसे अवसर आते हैं जब इस सभा को अपने प्रति, राष्ट्र के प्रति अपने कर्तव्यों के निर्वहन के लिए उचित निर्णय लेने होते हैं। माननीय सदस्यगण, संसदीय लोकतंत्र नियमों, उच्च मर्यादाओं से चलता है। ये सदन हमारे देश की सर्वोच्च पीठ है। पिछले 75 वर्षों की हमारी लोकतांत्रिक यात्रा में हमारे सदन की, हमारे लोकतंत्र की एक ऊंची मर्यादा स्थापित हुई है। पूरा देश उच्च संसदीय परंपराओं के लिए हमारी ओर देखता है। इन्हीं उच्च परंपराओं की बदौलत हमारे लोकतंत्र की पूरे विश्व में एक विशिष्ट पहचान है। माननीय सदस्यगण, पिछले 75 वर्षों की गौरव
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Wednesday that Israeli forces had surrounded the house of Yahya Sinwar. He said that they were potentially closing in on the top Hamas official in Gaza and the most wanted man by Israeli authorities. The Israel Defense Forces said that Sinwar was not in the house at the time and he was believed to be hiding underground in Gaza. But a senior advisor to the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that it was only a matter of time before we get him. Israel has publicly accused Yahya Sinwar of being the mastermind behind Hamas's terror attack against Israel, which happened on the 7th of October, in which more than 1,200 Israelis have died. This makes Sinwar one of the key targets of Israel's war in Gaza. A long-time figure in Hamas, Sinwar was responsible for building up Hamas's military wing before forging important ties with Arab powers like Egypt and, of course, with Iran. He was elected to Hamas's main decision-making body, what's called the Politburo, back in 2017. At that time, his title was the political leader of Hamas in Gaza. However, he has since become the Politburo's de facto leader. He's been designated a global terrorist by the US Department of State since 2015, and he's been recently sanctioned by both the UK and France. Experts warn against looking at Sinwar as some kind of a sole leader of Hamas. He's perceived as the most senior one because he has a very high public profile. But Hamas does not necessarily work that way. Hamas is a decentralized organization. It's got several separate power centers, and Sinwar happens to be one of them. He's believed to be one of a triumvirate of Hamas leaders who were responsible for the October 7th attack. Along with Sinwar, there's also Muhammad al-Mazri, popularly known as Muhammad Daif, the commander of the Al-Qasem Brigades, which is the military wing of Hamas. There is also Daif's deputy, Marwan Isa. Sinwar, with his silver hair and dark eyes, is by far the best known and most recognizable of these three. But it was Daif who announced the October 7th attacks to the whole wide world. While Sinwar has spent the past few years giving speeches and being photographed, Daif, on the other hand, is an extremely secretive, almost shadowy figure who's not been seen in public. Sinwar was born in 1962 in a refugee camp in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. His family was displaced from Al-Majdal, a Palestinian village which is in modern-day Ashkelon. This happened during the Arab-Israeli War in the late 1960s. He then joined Hamas in the late 1980s. He became one of the founders of its very feared internal intelligence apparatus known as the Majd. He was convicted in 1988 of playing a role in the murder of 2 Israeli soldiers and 4 Palestinians who were suspected of collaborating with Israel. He spent more than 2 decades in an Israeli prison. Sinwar later said that he had spent those years studying the enemy. He even learned how to speak Hebrew while he was in prison. He was released in 2011 as part of the deal that saw more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners exchange for Gilad Shalit, who was an IDF soldier who had been captured and taken to Gaza, where he was held for more than 5 years. At that time, Sinwar called the exchange one of the big strategic monuments in the history of our cause.
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We start tonight with the fallout of Justin Trudeau's tirade against India. It is affecting both the lives and livelihoods of Indians in Canada. Indians are increasingly coming under attack. The highest number of